did having a 2-year prep time help, or maybe even hinder this project?
Oh, it massively helped. I mean, I think that in every way, I was sort of seeking to overcome some of the limitations that put a lot of television in a box where shows look the same. You know, so if you're doing a traditional network show with a limited budget and a limited amount of prep time, you can build certain sets. You can't do really elaborate visual effects. You can't make creatures, and so. I think a lot of television looks the same, and a lot of that has to do with limitations of time and money. So the only way around that is to overcome the limitations of time and money. And FX was incredibly supportive and generous, and they provided us, 7-figure money to do research development, creature creation, to write the scripts ahead of time, to do a lot of elaborate planning of what sets we were going to build. To come up with a production plan in Toronto, second unit shooting in New York, and all these things that we needed to do to make the show feel very cinematic and special. And I think the creatures themselves take a long time. There's about a 4-month lead time to make somebody into a vampire. The vampires are a combination of human actors who are trained in movement with prosthetics, visual effects are added on top of them. In some cases we use puppetry, and kind of trying to put all of those elements together is a very complicated process. And it's been fantastic for me because Guillermo's a real master in this genre, and he's a really incredibly visually imaginative as a creature creator. And I think that we had, but all those things, in order to execute them, takes time.
In terms of the collaboration, it is Guillermo del Toro who is so great at horror. So are you bringing expertise in the area of television production in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, Guillermo hasn't done television series, and I oversaw the storytelling for the series. I mean, Guillermo was making Crimson Peak. He was involved in the creature creation and in visual effects. And obviously there's overlap in certain areas, but, he gave me the latitude to, take this book and be the storyteller of this television series. And that adaptation involved creating new characters, combining characters, adding new material, changing the fate or the timing of the fate of various characters. All those things were part of that adaptation. And we had, we talked it all through, and he was a generous and wonderful partner in allowing me the artistic freedom to take this wonderful book and turn it into a series.
What did you disagree with?
Very little. I mean, we had some arguments about the timing of certain things, like when major events would happen in characters' storylines. But it was I would put it in the category of artistic collaboration. I think that basically arguing out stuff is, I think, a vital part of the creative process. But it was done with incredible respect and really aesthetically, I think we were very much on the same page right from the get-go, right from when I first sat down with Guillermo 2 years ago.
What was it about this particular project, the strain, that really affected you and made you really want to be involved with it with him?
The reason I agreed to take the project on was, number one, I liked the fundamental idea in the books, which was this story was an upending of the vampire genre, that we'd kind of gotten into this place where vampires were getting increasingly, handsome, romantic, brooding, existential. They had, love life problems. That was their biggest issue. And I thought there was a really great opportunity to go back to upend the genre, to go back to the roots of what vampires are, which are really scary, dangerous, parasitic creatures. That excited me. Secondly, I was excited about the idea that I could do it with Guillermo, who I could count on to make the creatures visually imaginative. I don't think there's anybody any better at doing that than him. Because I think if you make a creature movie, and I won't cite the bad ones, but the most disappointing thing in a creature movie is when the creature feels familiar, or uninteresting. And so I thought, well, here's a chance to do a creature show, and I just believed in Guillermo that he would be able to execute the creatures and make them super cool, and I think he has, and I think he's delivered up an incredibly imaginative array of creatures in this show, and so those were the things that really interested me, and I thought, and also I like the idea of sort of I think for me as a writer, the thing that really interests me is cross-genre writing. My first show, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., was a Western with science fiction elements. Lost was essentially an adventure show with a science fiction cross. I felt like this was a show that could be sort of an adventure show or a thriller with horror elements. And I felt like it wasn't going to be pure horror, but that using horror in the context of telling a great adventure story about these people trying to survive this epidemic would just be cool, and that it would feel different than other genre shows out there. The third episode is called Gone Smooth, and it deals significantly with the exploration of the anatomy of vampires and what happens when you change from being a human to being a vampire. I will leave your imagination to make the connection between what alteration might occur that would be. So we thought the term "gone smooth" was actually a very good descriptive term that would it gets well revealed in this episode what exactly happens to Jack Kesey's character when he gets turned into a vampire.